Walking through the doors of a modern hospital, you expect an isolated, impenetrable sanctuary. The reality, however, is that these buildings are highly vulnerable to the chaos of the outside world. At any given moment, a facility faces a staggering array of threats: floods, fires, rolling blackouts, localized pandemics, and sudden equipment failures all compete to disrupt patient care simultaneously. Faced with this list, the initial instinct of many administrators is to build a defense strategy that treats every single one of these hazards as an equal priority. But treating all threats equally is a mathematical impossibility. Stretching preparation across infinite scenarios spreads defenses so thin that the entire system becomes brittle and inevitably fails. Understanding the logic of preparedness requires treating the hospital as a business entity defined by finite constraints. There is only so much staff, so much time in a shift, and a hard cap on the operating budget. Every hour of training and every dollar spent preparing for a highly unlikely disaster is a direct withdrawal of resources from a threat that is far more likely to occur. This environment of absolute scarcity requires a specific managerial strategy known as the top hazards approach. The objective here isn't a fantasy of total preparedness. The goal is ruthless, calculated prioritization to maximize the number of lives saved. So, how does a management team objectively calculate which hazards deserve their limited resources? They break abstract risk down into two measurable variables. The first is likelihood. This is simply the statistical frequency, how often a specific event actually occurs. The second variable is impact. If the event does happen, how severe is the physical and operational damage to the facility and its patients? A threat only becomes a priority when these two variables are calculated together. A frequent event with zero impact is a nuisance. A high-impact event with zero likelihood is a distraction. To process these variables, hospitals use a 2x2 risk matrix, mapping likelihood vertically against impact horizontally. Low likelihood, low impact events sit in the bottom left, requiring only passive monitoring. High likelihood, low impact events, like minor delays, fall into routine management. Conversely, low likelihood but high impact events demand specific advanced planning, saving daily resources. That leaves the top right quadrant, the high likelihood, high impact zone. This is the top hazard zone, dictating exactly where primary resources are concentrated. To see how this filtering tool works in practice, consider a major hospital facility operating in Chennai, India. A massive earthquake is a terrifying scenario with enormous impact, but historically, earthquakes in this region are rare, occupying a lower priority space. An internal fire is extremely dangerous and requires strict life safety planning. Yet, modern sprinkler systems make major fires relatively infrequent. It demands attention, but it is not the facility's primary overarching threat. The ultimate regional threat for Chennai is flooding. The coastal monsoon season brings a high probability of severe water damage, meeting the criteria for both high frequency and high impact. The matrix is dynamic. A top hazard in Chennai looks completely different from a top hazard in Tokyo or Los Angeles. Geography and context dictate exactly what enters that red box. Once a management team identifies their top hazards, the analysis phase ends and operational execution begins. The first two directives are proactive. The hospital must invest capital to prevent the hazard from reaching the patients if possible, or harden the facility's infrastructure to reduce the physical impact. Then come the active directives, training the staff to prepare in advance, executing a coordinated response during the actual crisis, and establishing protocols to recover patient care quickly once the threat passes. Identifying the threat is only the starting line. The approach must trigger an entire life cycle of continuous response and adaptation. All of these protocols are ultimately bound together in the HERP, the Hospital Emergency Response Plan. This is the master blueprint for all disasters. The top hazards approach acts as the engine for the HERP. It directs the plan, ensuring that highly limited budgets and fatigued staff are deployed exactly where they can save the most lives. Effective management requires administrators to make difficult choices under immense pressure, acknowledging that they cannot protect against everything simultaneously. Successful disaster management relies on the ability to move past the noise and prepare exclusively for the specific hazards that matter most.